We ready, guys?
Ready.
We're ready.
All right. So we're gonna go. We're gonna go with words first, and then music. We're gonna go 10 seconds, and once you hear me fading out, go ahead and start talking. All right. You ready?
Ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
This is words is on the.
Welcome.
All right. In 5, 4, 3.
Welcome to Recovery Uncovered, brought to you by Whiskey and Milk. I'm Adam Clark.
I'm Sarah Sellers.
As recovering addicts, we're on a mission to fight the stigma against addiction.
And inspire those struggling by sharing the experience of real people in recovery.
Because addiction doesn't discriminate.
Behind every struggle, there's a person with a story.
This is Recovery Uncovered.
Attention, now arriving at your destination. The last house on the block.
Welcome, everyone, to our podcast. Adam, what are we doing? Why are we here?
So we're here for one reason, to
Okay.
share stories of people in addiction recovery and to break down the stigma that people have against it.
How do we want to do that?
Well, first we're going to tell everybody a little bit about ourselves and how we got to be caring about addiction, or why that's important, or why that matters in our lives.
Yeah.
So tell me, Sarah, when did you first
I was
get
going to ask
sober?
you first.
Ooh,
I was going to ask
beat
you
you to it.
first. I got sober when I was 17. And if there comes a day where that's not true anymore, nobody blame anybody but me. That's just a disclaimer. Don't blame any other program or anything. But I've, God willing, been sober almost 7 years in December. And I was a bad kid.
Yeah?
A really bad kid. And a very sad and dramatic and demanding child. And that just all seemed fun and well until I started dabbling with alcohol and drugs, and then it wasn't so cool anymore.
What age were you when you first started messing around with it?
I want to say I was 12 or 13, and I was going through medicine cabinets, trying to Google everything, figuring out if it would work for me or not.
Been there.
Yeah. And then I found some really cool friends, and they took me out and let me drink. And it started with the weekends, progressed pretty rapidly into every week. And then I'm lying to my friends like, I don't have any, and I've got all of it that I need for me. And I'm trying to figure out how to get around my parents and how to hide the tracking devices my dad is putting on me, and my parents don't trust me. My teachers were scared of me / disappointed, depending on what teacher.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was definitely over us. He was like, "You're
didn't
not
wanna
my
deal with it.
sister anymore."
Yeah.
That we'd have those kind of outbursts constantly, and I really had nothing. But for some reason, I still felt like I have everything I need in life and more. So I'm looking around at everybody who is doing well, making great grades in high school, has a really good support system, and I'm truly thinking in my head, you guys are so lame. I'm living the best life. Meanwhile, I'm tipping over in my chair in math class.
It's funny how that works. The
Right.
people who I thought were really lame in high school are now doctors and lawyers and really
Yes.
have their shit together. And I'm like, so this is what happens when you get your shit together at 14 instead of 25.
Right. And I'm gravitated towards those people now too.
Mm-hmm.
I love the people that just don't really care about drinking. They like book clubs, because I want to be in a book club now.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It is.
I was in a book club. It's fun. Normal people stuff is really fun. I didn't realize that. I really thought that I was stuck in this depressing storyline for the rest of my life. And I don't know, there's this visual that I have of me as a 17-year-old girl running in quicksand. And then you like look to the side of you and we're in an airport at those, not an escalator, but it gets you there faster, flat escalator. And they're just walking, but making it so much faster than I am. And I'm the one sweating and I'm the one crying and in pain, and then I see everybody else in my life just kind of coasting and making it. And it's really exciting for me to be on this podcast and be able to talk about this because I'm, able to do a lot of stuff with adolescents now, and I hear it all the time, and I hear it, and I'm just taken right back to how that felt. I need to remember how it felt. Because I forget that my life is so good, that it could be pretty bad.
It kind of seems like lifetimes ago sometimes when I look at it. Like sometimes it feels like, man, that was just yesterday. Like I just got out of rehab, and then another part of my brain, it's like, that was a completely different human. Like that was a whole lifetime ago.
Yes. Yeah.
But I really love what you said about, getting to work with adolescents. Because to me, like, that's the most beautiful part of recovery, is that in sharing my story, hopefully somebody else can avoid some of the pain that I walked through, or I can help them walk through it.
Right.
Having been there already.
Right. And even at this point, I think for both of us, I feel a connection with families and friends of addicts.
Absolutely.
I feel such a deep, and I didn't walk my mom's path. I don't know what that's really like. But I do have the memories of seeing her broken because of me.
Yeah.
100%. Because she didn't know if I was going to come back home. She didn't know if I was ever going to make it by myself, if I was ever, let alone go to college, get a job, be successful, but just is she gonna make it? Am I gonna get a call tomorrow night because it's Saturday and we don't know where she is? So I basically was pranked into going to treatment. I'm trying to think of the best word. They tricked me. Yeah.
Surprise intervention.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. I told them that I'm ready. It had come to a point where I'm like, I'm ready. I just need a breath. I'm just gonna go, get all this stuff out of my system and then I can restart. I thought, okay, I'm just gonna restart on it. I'm a really good drinker. I'm a good drug taker.
Yeah, it's a shame when you're good at drinking and doing drugs, then you got to quit, because I was all-star level. Like
absolutely.
D1 could have gone pro, but got an injury, had to retire early,
It's like my goals in life. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to make it big. I'm still going to have a great life. And that just didn't happen. But I ended up in an adolescent rehab, and I was just blown away by all the people I was around, because I'm like, I'm not as bad as them. And I went to my counselor. I'm like, I'm not as bad as them.
Started looking for the differences.
Right. I'm like, they're insane. I set up a meeting and I told her, I think I need to go somewhere else. I'm not in the right place. And she's like, you look just like him. Sometimes you look worse,
Ooh, I bet that one stung.
So bad. Because I definitely, and there's something we talk about in recovery, that we can't differentiate the true from the false anymore. And I really was so stuck in my lies that I thought I was doing so good. I thought I was doing great. And even still to this day, I have a best friend who walked that whole path with me, and she will tell me things that I've done and I don't remember them.
Yeah.
I don't remember treating people that way or being that obvious. It's amazing to me. But yeah, flash forwarding to now, I love my life.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is. And people trust me to do stuff.
Yeah,
I can babysit. Part. Yeah. We can babysit. We can open up bank accounts.
Yeah, like my job trusts me with a key. Like
yeah.
My family members, I have keys to their house, and I mean, I don't live in the same place as them anymore, but like, I would take care of the family dog when, my parents went out of town, or stuff that they never would have let me do, especially towards the end of my addiction. Cause like, if you had a medicine cabinet, I was going in there.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you didn't need to leave me alone near any sort of painkillers, near any sort of cash, anything pawnable that I thought you wouldn't miss.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I was going to take it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Because there was no remorse at the time. Like that really indicates to me the level of selfishness and self-centeredness that comes to play when you're dealing with untreated alcoholism or untreated addiction. Because it's not like I thought about it and I didn't care. It's like the thought just was never even in my mind. Like,
Right.
this is in front of me. I need this because I need to feel this, so I'm taking this.
Yes.
And it was never like, oh, well, the only thought that I ever had about, whether somebody would miss it or not was if it would lead to me getting caught.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only type of thinking I did, other than I want this and I need this.
Right. Right. I that's such an important visual for me now. How many things are between me and a drink?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just an automatic response that I'm going to drink if I'm happy, if I'm sad, if I'm lonely, if I'm heartbroken.
Yeah.
And, that is just what I'm going to.
Anything could have been an excuse.
Yes. Yes. Anything. And it's like, I want to say that the worse my life got, the more reasons I had to drink, but I was going to find something anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't need a reason. I'd fabricate one.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So when did you get sober, Adam?
So I got sober in July of 2018. I started drinking and using a little bit later on than you did. I had like a couple drinks in high school. I remember I had like 3 Smirnoff ices, the green apple flavor on prom night, and I was like, "Woo, turn down for what?" Like,
Wait, really?
yeah, like that was the extent of my drinking in high
You're
school.
never going to forget that drink.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
And I think I thought that I was like doing something.
Yeah.
But I went to college, and like the first night there, I got drunk. The second night, I blacked out and I smoked weed for the first time. And I don't think up to that point I'd had enough to really get the feeling that I was looking for. But once I, once I got that relief is the best way I can put it. Because, growing up, even before I started any of the drinking or using, like, I always felt different. I come from a broken home, and my dad's a alcoholic addict. And so I've always had that feeling of just like, I'm different. I grew up going to this private school that my family couldn't afford, but my grandparents paid for it. And so I was like the poor kid at the rich kid school. And I just always felt out of place. And that first night where I got drunk, and then that second night where, I drank and smoked weed, it was like,
Yeah.
like I could finally take a big deep breath. I wasn't this outsider. I was just a part of the crowd. And that's what I was always looking for. When I started, it was like, okay, this is what I want to do forever now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. Like, I went straight to full on addictive behavior, where I was pretty much from the first night I got drunk, drinking every night of the week. There might have been a couple nights where I wasn't drinking, but I was definitely smoking every day. And then it just rapidly progressed for me. Like, I went from being in high school, not the top of my class, but like A-B student. I had a solid ACT score, almost a full ride to go to college, to I had a 0.0 GPA my first semester, because I just didn't care about class. Like, class was in the morning, and that's time for sleeping because I stayed up all night.
Right.
And like I kept telling myself, like, I'm going to do something different. And so, people who identify as, alcoholic or addict would all say that, like, there's a point where you lose the choice. And I feel like it happened for me very quickly, because like I did want to go to class. I did want to pursue this degree and have this career, because I wanted to make a lot of money. I was always so worried about status because I felt like I never had any. But but I couldn't do it. Like the drinking and the drugging was very rapidly more important. And it progressed from there for me, over the next several years. Like I did 4 semesters at 3 different universities, 1 fake semester that I took student loans out for and never enrolled in class.
Okay.
And I 0.0 GPA'd every single one of them. And it's not that I don't have the intelligence to do it. I wouldn't go. Like,
Yeah.
I moved back in with my mom to go to community college at one point. And I would get up, get dressed on time to go to class. I would drive to campus, and then I would sit in the parking lot and get high for a couple hours until my class was scheduled to be over, because at that point, Mom had a copy of the class schedule, because obviously Adam can't be trusted to go to class. And they thought that I was doing the thing. And, I learned how to do very basic Photoshop so I could fake my transcripts at the end of the semester, because I had 0.0 GPAs, and I brought my mom a nice report card with A's and B's from community college. And she's like, "Oh, my boy's getting it." I'm like, well, he's getting high. That's about all he's getting.
Yeah. But I bet your intention was you were really going to get those grades.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah.
Just not this card, but in the future.
That's what it always was for me. Like, I'm always going to do it the next time. I'm going to do better tomorrow. I'm not going to do this again. But for me, like, the more I put things off, the worse the anxiety got around it.
Yes.
Like, when you've been getting high in the parking lot at college for the first 3 weeks, like, it's pretty awkward to walk into class for my day 1, but everybody else is on week 4.
Right.
And like each day that it went on, it was like more and more like, I can't go in there. Like at this point I've made my bed. I just got to lie in it. We're going to restart next semester.
Yeah.
And then I would start the same pattern over and over again. At some point after all that, I figured like it's probably time to take a break from school, because this isn't working out. Started into the restaurant industry as a server. Eventually became a bartender, and that like just rapidly sped up my decline. So I'm grateful for it nowadays, because it brought me to rock bottom, I think, quicker than if I'd been doing some other type of line of work, because I didn't have to go further than the kitchen in the back of house to get what I needed to get.
Yeah.
And anybody who's worked in the restaurants know, like, that's kind of a party scene, at least for a good majority of them. Like, you get off at 9, 10, 11, everybody's hungry, you haven't ate yet, everybody wants to drink to relax, so, like, everybody goes to the bar. And I didn't have to be at work till 4 p.m., so, like, I could stay at the bar as late as I wanted to. The job perfectly fit the lifestyle. But it also put me in a place to be introduced to other harder substances. Mm-hmm. I don't even really remember the first time I did cocaine, but I know the bar it was at, and I know the bathroom stall I was in. And it was the same thing with me with cocaine. Like, every substance I tried, I did it, I liked it, and I needed more. And so, like, I very rapidly went from, like, yeah, we'll do a little blow here and there, like, just on the weekends, to, like, well, I mean, we're going to drink, so, like, I need some blow so I can drink more, to, like, all right, maybe I should start selling a little bit so that I can afford to buy more, so that I can have some for during the day, because, I'm hungover, so I need it for my shift, too. So, like, all of a sudden, I'm buying, like, an 8-ball or more of blow a day, selling a little bit here and there, doing it. And, like, the people who sell cocaine, they're not the people you want to be hanging around with. So I'm just putting myself with worse and worse crowds.
For a good cause.
Yeah, I mean, I needed that Coke.
You do. And I don't think, you can't understand unless you have it.
Yeah.
And I do think that people can be educated on addiction. People can be very familiar, especially those that are affected directly, being either a family member or a friend. But in my mind, as I'm listening to you, maybe to someone this sounds totally insane. In my head, I'm like, that's really smart. You need to sell so that you can get more. And then you'll meet those people. And they'll have it all the time. And you get more contacts. I mean, it's networking.
And
that's what we call it. Yeah.
Like, I felt like, all right, so if I can get this guy to introduce me to his plug, then I can start buying more at a better price. Then I'll be able to afford to sell more of it and keep more of it so I can do more. And I always had these grand schemes of like, somewhere in here there was going to be profit.
Yeah.
And we never got to profit. Yeah.
I'm not thinking, okay, I am listening and I'm tuned in, but I wasn't thinking about profit the whole time.
See, I thought that like I was going to be El Chapo.
Oh,
I grew up
really?
watching Scarface, and I mean, I didn't think I was going to be that hard, but like I thought like you gotta get to where you have enough capital to get enough weight so that you can start making money. Cause like I was doing this little middleman selling like little small amounts and then snorting up the rest of my product. So like I have to go back to work to get more money to go buy some more to sell some. Like I never finished selling off part of a bag and had enough money to go back and re-up. Like if I was the shittiest drug dealer ever to deal drugs.
They say don't do this for a reason.
Yeah, I was not
like
cut out for
crying.
it.
You thought you were about to bank out.
I did, and it never got there.
You have to sell apple juice to bank out, and then even then, you know, you're just not going to be responsible enough, most likely.
I just couldn't do it.
No. Well, I mean, I did the same type of insanity. I was really positive that if I smoked enough pot, I could do so well on the ACT because I was like hyping myself up the day before, ready to smoke and then go in, because I'm thinking, okay, it's gonna make things more exciting. Because when I would be on anything, typically I'm like looking at my tiles in the bathroom and I'm like, these are so interesting. How are they made? How do people do this? And so I thought the same thing was going to happen at the ACT. It didn't, and I passed out, and it's against the rules to wake you up because like the moderator or whoever, they can't touch you. So I just slept through like one of them, and I snore. So I know. But that's my I get the insanity.
How'd you do on that ACT?
I did worse than the one before. So my dad was like, "What's going on? Like, we got you a tutor. Is tutor not working out?"
Like, no, Dad, I need some Adderall.
Like, no, she's not, Dad. Yeah, literally, I'm gonna need to start something else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the insanity that we go through. I remember feeling that way with everything. Like, I got to smoke before I do this, or I need to, like, one of the semesters where I was going to school and, like, I was sort of trying more because one of my buddies had moved up there, and, like, he smoked pot and stuff with me, but he's not one of us. Like, he still got all of his shit done, and we would, like, go to the library, and we'd, like, all right, we got to smoke a bowl before we go to the library, and we'd smoke, like, a couple bowls, play a game of FIFA or something, and then we'd snort some Adderall. And then we'd, like, go to the library, chiefing cigs on the way, like, killing Marlboro Lights. Yeah. And we'd, like, get up. And it was at University of Tennessee, so it's, like, a huge library. And so we'd go up to the whatever floor and, like, get all of our stuff set up, get logged in, ready for our assignments, and, like, just be about to start studying and be like, "You want to go smoke a cig, bro?"
Yeah, let's just get some fresh air.
And so we like go back down, smoke a cig, get a coffee, get a snack, go back up, and they did some studying during it, but I just like I never could get there.
No.
No. But that's that same insanity. Like I felt like I had to be medicated in some form at all time. I remember when I was bartending at this restaurant, and like at this point, like I'm getting messed up all the time. Like, Coke's not as heavy in the mix anymore because I started replacing Coke with painkillers. I came in for a shift one time, like super hungover, and one of the guys in the restaurant, like I was running back and forth to puke in the bathroom, and he's like, "Dude, I got something that'll make you feel better." I was like, "Give it to me, whatever it is." And he held up a little yellow 10 milligram hydrocodone, and it's like $8. Take all my money, whatever you need. If it'll make me feel better. He's like, "No, it won't just make you feel better. You'll feel like Superman in like 15 minutes. But anyways, like I was heavy on the painkillers, at this point in the restaurant. Like it very rapidly went from like let's take one when you're hungover to like, I need one a day. Now I need two a day. Now I need like one for breakfast, one for lunch, one for dinner. And then it was two, and two. And all of a sudden I'm spending like $100 a day on painkillers and drinking and still smoking weed and doing this all like at work. And I remember like looking around at the customers in this restaurant and being like, there's no way that anybody in here is sober. Like, everybody's got to have some vice. Like, yeah, maybe they're not drunk, but like they're probably on like some sort of med, or like I truly thought that like there just wasn't any way that there was normal people capable of going through life unmedicated in any form.
Well, especially when you get to that point, because then at that point you're taking this to soothe that because you did that the night before and you're coming down and it's like compiled. So it's not even like obviously being sober was horrible. It was just so horrible. I had to hear my own thoughts. I had to be present. Like, I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
I hated myself. And that's all I could ever think when I was sober. But especially once I got into a pattern, well, then there is no sober. Like, there's a headache, stomach ache, blurry vision. There's no like truly sober.
Yeah, you would never get back to baseline.
No,
I relate to that because like I would wake up hungover or in withdrawals or like sick from the night before. Like I didn't remember what it felt like to just like go to sleep normally and then wake up just like refreshed.
Yeah, I don't remember prepping for bed.
No,
those last few months. I just remember waking up somewhere,
like
I mean, sometimes like in my room, but like on the foot of the bed or something like that.
Oh, I've woken up in some weird places. Yeah. I remember being at UT and, I pledged and joined a fraternity and I was in it for like one semester, so it barely counts. But when I was up there was a fraternity called Farmhouse, and it was like all the agricultural people, like all the ag majors and stuff. No, I was not in Farmhouse.
Okay, all right.
But one time I woke up on the couch in Farmhouse without my shoes. I still to this day don't know anybody who was a member of that fraternity, but I just woke up like, okay, I don't remember getting here. And I didn't know where I was until like I left their house and walked out on the street and looked up and like, oh, Farmhouse. And like I knew where the house was, and so I walked back to my dorm and
call it a day.
Yeah, went back to sleep. It was time for class, but it was time for bed.
Right.
And so I had to rest up to be able to do it again the next night. But yeah, like I don't think that I actually went to sleep from like 20 to 25. I passed out or I blacked out, and I didn't wake up. I came to. Because it was always like that shock. Because that was, when I was passed out, blacked out, like I didn't have to feel me. That part of it was just as good as the drugs were until I woke up and I was back in reality. And then it's like, all right, I got to medicate again. Just the ups and downs. It always makes me think of that scene in Wolf of Wall Street where he's talking about like I needed this to bring me up and this to bring me down and that to level me out. Because that's the game that I was playing.
It is, yes.
I just couldn't stop.
All right, so, okay, I've never done heroin. So I'm about to ask you questions.
Okay.
How did you start?
So the first time I did heroin, there was like a pill shortage in Jackson, Tennessee, where I'm from.
Was that a real thing, or was it just your buddies didn't have?
Well,
they weren't texting you back?
In my world, there was a pill shortage.
Okay,
they were texting me back, but like at this point, I mean, I managed on painkillers for like 3 years before I switched to heroin.
Okay.
And so I knew everybody who sold pills in that town. Like, not all of them, but
so you should have been on the news.
I had a lot of people that I knew. And, like, if this guy was out, then this guy always had something. Or I could call this other guy who did them, and he could find me something. And, like, the whole time that I'd been taking pills, it had never gone more than, like, 12 hours where I couldn't find what I needed to find. And then this time it was like, this guy was waiting on a script to come through, and this guy didn't have anything. And just all of a sudden, every single one of my connections just didn't have pills. And like,
So you don't think that they all just said "fuck you," Adam, at
no,
the
because
same time?
they started selling me stuff again like a week later.
Okay.
I mean, they could have,
Yeah.
but like, I was a pretty good customer.
Yeah, I bet you were.
Because I did the same thing with pills that I did with Coke. Like, you know, I might have, towards the end, I might have taken 10 a day, but that meant I would buy 50.
Yeah.
And so I would go sell the other 40 to people that I worked with. So, like, they wanted me to come buy them. And I'm sure they were ripping me off, too. Like, I don't know what the good prices were for them back then, but I wasn't getting really any crazy bulk discounts. Like,
Yeah, I wasn't that patient. I think I got ridiculous ripped off.
yeah.
Because I was not about to do research.
No, I just wanted it. You have it. Here's the money.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so that happened. Like, I couldn't find any painkillers. And then one of my guys, one of the Bubbas, there was like 4 dudes who I had saved in my phone as Bubba. This one was Lil Bubba. He's like, man, I ain't got any pills, but I got that boy. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he hit me with like a couple other slang terms. Like, man, I got that smack. I got that dog food. Like, bro, tell me what you're talking about. Like, I don't understand here. And then finally he's like, I got that hair on. And I was like, oh. And so I told him no at first. But at this point, it had been 24 hours. And then like another day had gone by. So we're at like 48 hours. And I was at the point where like I needed something in my system every 6 to 8 hours, or I was going to start going into withdrawal. And so by the time that I was 2 days in without it, coming up on 3 days, like I was in full-blown withdrawals. You know, I was like hunkered over the toilet in the bathroom, hot, cold, shaky, sweaty, the anxiety, the paranoia, the fear. It's like I couldn't even think straight. Like it's the worst pain. I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff out there, but opiate withdrawal is not something that I would wish upon anybody, because it's like psychological torture. And then the whole time, like in the back of my head, like I know what'll make me feel better. And like I'd always told myself jokingly, like, I'm gonna do heroin when I turn 80, because like you're 80, you know, whatever. If I die, I die. That's what, like, I had that joke when I was younger. And so I started 65 years too early,
Right.
or 66 years, whatever it is.
I just have to say, I mean, we were like, I'm feeling very comfortable right up until like that moment, because I'm realizing how many people right now are meeting somebody, and this is what a typical introduction to heroin is.
Yeah, it was like, it was offered to me so casually.
Casual, it's not a big deal, it's just a little bit better.
Yeah, like that's what he told me. He's like, it's not what you want, but it'll make you feel better.
It'll make you feel better. It's not too far away from what you were already doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. It's just not pharmacy. I got told all the stuff because he was trying to sell it to me for like a day and a half before I eventually, gave in and bought some.
Right.
And like the most insidious part of all of it was like I bought $20 worth from him, or a button, like a 1/10 of a gram. And, I snorted a little bit of it, and like instantly the withdrawals were gone. The pain was gone. And not only was it gone, like I had been at the point with the painkillers where I was just on maintenance. Like I wasn't really getting that high, that warm, wrapped in a glowing blanket feeling that I used to get from them. And I got the high better than the first high that I ever had off the painkillers. It was like going back to day one, resetting that tolerance. And then on top of that, that $20 worth lasted me 3 days. And so leading up to that, I was spending $100 a day. So I replaced like $300 over 3 days with $20. And so I remember, like, it's so crazy to think of now, but I remember having the thought that like, oh dude, this is going to save me so much money. I found my solution. Like I thought that I was going to be able to manage it. And it's crazy because I remembered starting with one hydro, and then over whatever period graduating to like, all right, now I need 10 oxys. But it didn't even cross my mind like, oh, this is a slippery slope, Adam. The same thing's going to happen that happened with pills. It was just like, no, this is the answer. And that's exactly what happened. Like, the first 20 lasted 3 days, and then the next 20 might have done the same, but then very quickly it was like 2 days and a day, and then it was like I needed one a day, and it was the same thing with the pills. And like the thing it's weird to say now is that like I'm really grateful that I got on heroin because it rapidly just rocketed me into rock bottom because I couldn't keep up.
This is not a joke. Like I think this all the time about people. I'm like, screw up as fast as you can. Like, I hope your life becomes hell as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Not in a, but if you know, you know.
Yeah, it's not in a malicious way.
No.
It's like there's a certain level that you're going to reach where you end up dead, you end up in jail, or you finally had enough.
The moment of clarity has to be clear enough.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in rock bottoms anymore. After seeing our friends pass away, like, that is rock bottom. Death is rock bottom. I understand why we say that phrase, but it is a moment of clarity for me. And I think I had moments of clarity in my life before I even started. Mm-hmm. You know, my family was very intentional telling me that this is a gene. And it's very important that you pay attention to it. They weren't even doing the just say no campaigns in my face. They were sitting with me and talking to me about what my genetic history is.
Interesting.
And, you know, still, that was that should have been a moment of clarity. If you stand out in front of a busy street, you're going to get run over.
Yeah.
Sarah. And then I go run out that street.
Yeah.
I get run over.
See, my experience was a little different. Like, I didn't have that warning. Like, my mom and my stepdad didn't drink. Like, they would have a glass of a wine now or then, but like nothing crazy. And so like their perspective was usually just like, yeah, just don't drink. Like, don't do drugs.
Yeah.
And they never really experienced it. You know, I think my biological dad had pressured my mom into smoking weed a couple times when they were married, but like it wasn't like her thing. She didn't have the gene, she didn't have the ism. But then my dad, full-blown alcoholic and addict my whole life. And like I thought my mom and my stepdad were the lame ones, cuz my dad would like he'd, you know, run around and come back into town with a new Mercedes, and then he always had like the shirt with the right little emblem on it, you know, and he'd bring me the Ralph Lauren or the whatever I was into at that time. And he always like had this little picturesque like facade that he tried to put on, and it fooled the shit out of me as a little kid. And so like I thought like, oh man, that's what I want to be like. Like I want to drink, I want to party. Like my mom, my stepdad, they just don't get it. You know, they don't understand. They're just lame Bible thumpers. And it's such the opposite view of what I have now. Like I look up to them so much more and respect them. And like I had a conversation with my mom the other night where I was just telling her about all the different things that I thought were so stupid that now I'm like, yeah, like you were really right. Like it's way better to be smart with your money. Like it's dumb to go get a car payment more than you can afford. Like all kinds of different stuff that I just thought was ridiculous and lame. Now I'm like,
oh my God,
that makes so much more sense. Yeah. And now I'm like, dude, I want to be more like y'all, and I want to be nothing like that.
Yes.
But it was the opposite for me growing up.
Yeah. There's a in my, I think it was a peer support training. One of the trainings I had to do recently talked about the number one, I don't want to phrase it wrong, so this isn't completely word for word, but what creates resilience in children. And they say having one safe adult relationship. And I just like, I think about that now because I had way more than just one.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the quote that says genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
I just know that for myself, I can't blame it on one. Like, it is not just genetics. It's not just my environment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to tell. Like, people don't, I think this goes back and forth a lot. What makes an addict?
Yeah.
We know, we know why we self-diagnose, why this is one of the few diagnoses that you self-diagnose, and why it's important to do that in order to get treatment or get help. But I don't know. I know that I had tendencies since I was a kid. Sounds like you did. I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Yeah, I did. I mean, like, from the time I was very little, like, the first time I found pornography, like, I was obsessed. Like, I remember getting in trouble at, like, I don't know, 9 or 10, because me and my stepbrother had, like, found out that if you typed in boobs.com, you
Oh
would
my
see
God.
boobs. And my dad had a printer, so we, like, just started printing stuff off. And then we had this little Fisher Price, like, kids rolling suitcase with just, like, 150 pages of different nudes that we found by going to boobs.com or ass.com, or and, like, fried his computer had, like, this persistent pop-up where you'd, like, click out of it and then 3 more would spawn, and I just didn't know what to do, so I just turned off the screen, and he came back and turned the monitor on, and just porn everywhere. But, like, from a super young age, anything I found that gave me pleasure or that made me feel different.
saying bad words.
Yeah.
Really, saying bad words. I've figured out bad words, and I said them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Sugar packets, sugar water. I feel like we talked about this already. Yeah, but I mean, it is, and I don't know that it even matters. I think it was so interesting when we were prepping for this podcast, and you were talking about we were talking about the purpose of our podcast, and the mission to get rid of the stigma or
Yeah.
work on minimizing the stigma or surrounding addiction. And I'm thinking in my head, what stigma? There's no stigma. Because I have a privilege today. Most of my friends are recovering addicts.
Mm-hmm.
I work in a mental health field. One of my jobs is peer support. It's not. I don't have anyone coming up to me and saying anything bad about addicts or stay away from that. I don't experience that.
Yeah.
That misunderstanding or just that lack of education.
Yeah, I think it's really more ignorance in most cases
Right,
than it is malice.
Well, and people might be hurt.
I think that's a lot of it too. Like, people who grew up with an addicted or an alcoholic parent, and especially the ones who grew up with a parent and then they lost that parent to addiction,
Right.
or that parent never got sober, or they haven't talked to them in 20 years because whatever big explosive thing happened the last time they were together and they finally cut contact. And so they never got to see how beautiful it is to see somebody recover.
Right.
And so, I'm not so involved in the mental health and recovery field like you are with work. And so, I've seen a bunch of different perspectives on it. And nowadays I'm completely open about all of my history, or I wouldn't be here talking about it on the internet.
Yeah, same.
But there was several years of my recovery where, like, I was deeply afraid to share about it, because I felt judged for it already. Like, the people that I grew up with, like, and this is all on me, not on any of the people necessarily, but, like, people I grew up going to church with that, like, never drank or never did drugs. Like, I had this feeling of, like, oh, I am bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worse than them. They're better people. And I think that happens with a lot of people because they just look at addiction as, like, oh, that's just a moral failing. Like, you're making a choice. You chose to get high the first time, or you chose to take that drink. And we did. Like, I can't deny that at all. But what's interesting to me is, like, a lot of the science behind how that works. You know, somebody who is an addict or an alcoholic, like when we drink, it affects our brains differently than it does normal people. And generally, alcoholics and addicts have a dopamine deficiency. And so you find that drug of choice, that drink that gives you that quick fix and makes you feel normal. And your brain starts to rewire itself. There's a part called your midbrain that like controls all the basic functions that you never have to think about. Like, I have to pee, I have to go number 2, it's time to breathe, I need some water. And your drug of choice can get added into that mix because it's a dopamine fix. So the more you use, like, it starts out as this innocent thing, like, yeah, I chose to drink, I chose to get drunk the first time. I don't know at what point I crossed the line, but there's a certain point where after X amount of uses, your brain starts sending those signals of, I need that drug, the same way it sends those signals of, you need to take another breath. And so, like, again, I don't know where that point is where we cross the line. But at that point, like, it's like trying to hold your breath to make yourself pass out. Like, at a certain point, you're going to gasp for air and breathe. And that's kind of what it felt like when I didn't have the drink or the drug in my system. It's like I'm holding my breath, and then you get that breath, and then you get that sigh of relief.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I remember when I went into my inpatient, I was afraid that people were going to find out I was in treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another one of those web of lies that I had created around myself and around my life that no one knows.
Yeah.
You know, no one knows that I'm a mess, that I'm messed up. And everyone at my school knew.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew. And I did think they would judge me. But then in my case, shortly afterward, I'm like telling my mentor, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. You know, at 18, I'm like, I'm going to tell the world.
You don't let them know?
Yeah, I'm going to let them know. I'm going to take them through everything that I did to feel this way. Because now it is so good. And I do wish that there was any way for us to tell families and friends of an addict, you know, that they've got this much left, and then they'll come into recovery.
Yeah.
And there is no way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way.
There's no magic pill you can take. There's no quick fix.
No, because the people that I really thought were going to still be here are not here.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, the people that I did not think would be here are here,
Mm-hmm.
like me. I did not think I'd be making it.
Yeah, like I don't think anybody thought that I was going to get and stay sober,
No.
myself included. I remember, like, getting out of rehab and going to this friend of mine's house with the girl I was dating at the time, and, like, she was letting them know, like, you know, Adam doesn't do anything. We don't need any drugs over there anymore. He doesn't drink. And my friend's like, he doesn't smoke weed anymore either. He doesn't drink. He doesn't take pills. Well, what the hell does he do then? 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, that was my whole identity. And, like, I thought I had it so together, you know, and it goes back to what I was saying about, like, the status and the facade that my dad put on that I wanted to emulate. Like, I thought because I had some Cole Haans on my feet and I was wearing a nice shirt that people looked at me. But then I look back at these pictures, I looked so nappy. Like, the day that I went to rehab, I called my boss and I was like, hey, man, I'm not going to be in for my shift tonight. And he's like, all right, what's going on? I'm like, I'm going to rehab. And he was like, thank God. Like,
Yeah.
he knew that I needed that bad.
Yeah. It's like not a surprise that I have a problem.
Yeah.
It's a surprise that I'm doing something about it.
I thought everyone was going to be, like, shocked.
Yeah,
And,
I
like,
know. And then they weren't.
Yeah. They're like,
I was
"Oh,
so
thank God
disappointed.
Adam's finally getting some help."
Yeah, and then the next thing is whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. You know,
Mhm.
people that love it, maybe family and close friends, but cared, but people didn't care as much as I thought because the world
Yeah.
actually doesn't revolve around me.
Yep. You took the words out of
Shocking.
my mouth.
Yeah,
I felt like it
shocking.
did. I felt like Like everybody in my hometown was looking at me. Like I even remember feeling that way. Like I've lived here in Mississippi for a little over 2 years now. And so when I moved here, coming up on like 3 years of sobriety at that time, I still remembered feeling that way to a certain extent. Like, man, everybody in this town knows, but it's because I still wasn't open about it yet.
Yeah.
And then like as soon as I started being open about it and telling people, like I've had so many different people reach out to me that I grew up with, whether it's just like a comment on a Facebook post about hitting a milestone, or, you know, something on one of my pages, like people that I wouldn't have thought being like, dude, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad that you got sober. And these are people that I thought would have like judged me for it or thought less of me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about being open about your recovery. And the way that we're willing to talk about it is like a lot of people aren't willing to be that open about their struggles, their fears, their insecurities. And so it makes you a more inviting person. Like when you've heard me tell about all of my shenanigans of drinking and drugging, like all of a sudden you telling me about your anxiety, like it doesn't seem like as big of a thing. Like Adam just told me about stealing from his grandma to get heroin. Like
Yeah.
I can say that I'm anxious.
Being
He's not
a
going to
safe
judge me.
person
Mm-hmm.
for others, finally, and that goes for people outside of recovery as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, not being super open, or at least not being selfish about it and just always going back to it, it's allowed me to relate to people on other levels. Because I'm not really the type of person that's going to sit there and talk about needlepoint with anybody.
Yeah.
Because needlepoint doesn't get me high.
Yeah. I
And
want to
it's-
talk about the deep shit.
Yeah, I know. But I'm like talking about needlepoint
Yeah.
and talking about books and, you know, engaging in meaningful conversations with people that I would never talk to
Mm-hmm.
if I was on my own mission. And I'm so great. And I'm dating a guy that's has no idea
Yeah.
about addiction. No idea. And obviously we have very great conversations, you know. It's a beautiful thing. Look, I want to read out some of your comments. I think we've got a few more minutes. Can I read these out, Adam?
Yeah.
This is from your Facebook. Absolutely hilarious. I'm just going to go through a few of them. These are top comments, by the way. One person said, I'm going to be nice and not say their name because they're learning, and that's okay.
Yeah.
First comment is, it's a choice, period. Cancer is a disease. Drinking is a choice. I know. I used to be one. What do you think about that?
You know, I think that, like we were talking about earlier, it probably doesn't come from a place of malice. It comes more from a place of hurt. Like anytime that you see somebody get heated about something like that, because I remember that comment, like it was in all caps.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like it usually means that something that was said in that video pushed a button, or it hit home somewhere and it disrupted whatever their regular views are.
Right.
Because that's what we do. We get defensive when I feel like I'm being attacked. And so, you know, like I said a minute ago, like the first drink, you know, is a choice, but for me, for a whole lot of other addicts and alcoholics, along with, you know, medical professionals, counselors, therapists, psychiatrists that I've talked to, like there comes a point when there's no longer a choice in the matter. Mm-hmm. It's not just as simple as the old Nancy Reagan, just say no. And so, you know, I don't think it's, again, out of hate or anything like that, but I think it's just a lot of people are ignorant to it. Before I got sober, I didn't give a damn what sober people were doing. And I didn't care about people in recovery because I thought that they were lame because, like, I was wanting to get high.
Right.
And even, like, before I started drinking or using, I had a different viewpoint on it. You know, like, now if I see a homeless man on the sidewalk with a brown paper bag, I'm like, man, I wonder what his story is. Yeah. I wonder how he got here, what he's been through. I wonder if there's something I can do to help. But before I was like, oh, look at that dirty drunk. Mm-hmm. Like, and it was out of ignorance.
Yeah.
And so I like to believe that that's the case for a lot of people. I'm sure there's some where it's just, pure hate or malice, or some of it could be trolling or whatever. But
Well, with this person, I thought it was interesting that they said I used to be one. And this is a really good question to bring up. What's the difference between someone that can't stop by themselves and someone that can? And I don't know the medical opinion on that. I'm not going to attempt to even read something from the medical opinion just in case. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do know from other individuals, I know that there's a difference between addiction and binge drinking and binge using, and those that go out on benders, but then their next thought when they wake up isn't, how do I get back to that? It's like, dude, I messed up.
yeah,
Like, I've got to get it back together. I've got to. I'm just gonna let me right my wrongs right now, because that's not what I'm thinking when I wake up after I've just gone out and now I'm hungover. You bet I'm thinking, how can I get more?
yeah, and I think that there's people like that who are binge drinkers and binge users who probably view like recovery as weakness, because like if you're a binge user and you can go do an 8-ball of blow and drink a case of beer over a weekend and then like be good Monday through Friday, and then I do the same thing with you, but I can't stop Monday through Friday, you're like, you're just weak, dude. Like, I quit it just fine. And so I think some of it could come from that too. It's just a place of misunderstanding, because there's something different going on there. Again, like, I don't know. I'm not going to try to be a doctor either, but there's just something different.
Something that I can't say I relate to personally as an addict.
Yeah.
I can't relate to it,
Yeah, I've never been able to just stop like that.
No. I mean, for short stints. We can stop, we can't stay stopped.
Yeah.
Totally relate. This one is this is just pretty straight to the point. Alcoholism isn't a disease, it's a choice. That's what we were talking about. Sorry, no, it's not a disease, it's a condition. You can't catch it. Typically, okay, I'm not even going to read that. You can't catch it. I can't finish that one now. But I appreciate these people sharing their viewpoint, because there is a reason that they feel this way.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go through and analyze, this person is saying this just because whatever, but they have reasons for their opinions. And I hate that this is not just an easy, we can all learn enough about it to feel safe. I can't learn enough about it and feel safe from myself and then safe from other people, because now I have a really big community of friends who are just like me, and I'm, it's a random thought that comes up into my head, like, who next?
Yeah. The amount of people, like, since getting sober who are now 6 feet under is scary. And like you said earlier, like, people who I would have thought, like, oh man, that guy's got it. Like, he's on his stuff. He's doing his program. He's doing what he needs to do to stay sober. And then, like, nope, he passed or she passed. So, it's not something that can be taken lightly for us in recovery. I think there's a lot of people just aren't aware of it, and, don't really know, but like, people with long-term sobriety are usually doing continual work on themselves, on their spiritual life. They usually have a strong recovery community of people that they can talk to without judgment, people that they can lean on. It's not just this like, oh, I went to rehab and now I'm normal.
Right.
Because I thought that was going to be it for me.
Oh my God, I was hoping. Such a letdown.
Yeah.
I came out with the same feelings I had when I went in.
Same. Yeah. I'm so glad that there was other addicts and alcoholics working at that treatment center who I could relate to on that level. Because I thought, like, man, if I get the opiates or opioids, the heroin out of my system, like, I'll just be able to drink and smoke weed like
Fresh
a normal
and ready.
person.
Yep.
And they were like, Adam, tell me about how it was when you just drank and smoked weed. I'm like, well, my life was a shit show and I ran it into the ground. I did the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And they're like, okay, Adam, so how's it going to be different this time? Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Guess I should be sober from everything.
Yeah.
And thank God for those people.
Yes.
Because I would have. Like, I'm so perfectly capable still today of ruining my life rapidly. Like,
yeah.
it's crazy.
Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone that listened. If you would like to share any opinions in the chat, I don't promise we won't read them next podcast, but we'd love to hear what you think. And also, you can send us a message at Whiskey and Milk on Instagram or TikTok with any ideas or any questions for either of us.
Yeah, and if you're out there and you want to be a guest or know anybody who might make a good guest, send them our way as well.
Yes.
All right, till next time.
See ya.
Attention, now arriving at your destination. The last house on the block.